All good now?
Yep, you're good.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, say it again. Hi, everyone. My name is Lilia Perez. I'm the Grants and Programs Manager for Arts Mid-Hudson, and this is the information session for Dutchess Partners in the Arts 2023. And again, that's me. I use she, her pronouns. Also on our grants team is Amani Jones, who's our administrative assistant. We'll both be answering questions from the same email, which is grants@artsmidhudson.org. That's the best way to reach both of us. And you can also always call our office, 845-454-3222. And if you're unable to catch one of us when you call, you can leave a voicemail at extension 11. Today, I'm going to go over the purpose of Dutchess Partners in the Arts, the basics of the program, important details, dates, and other information. I'll go over the key information and the guidelines and application, and talk about how you'll submit an application for funding. So this session is recorded that you can watch. You're probably watching this on YouTube. There are a couple of people here as we're doing this live now. And moving forward, you can drop into upcoming Zoom Q&A sessions. There's a full list on our website, and I'll show you that in a little while where you can find everything on our website. And once you sign up and RSVP to the Zoom sessions, they use the same Zoom access information for all of them. So you can continue to use that and attend as many of them as you'd like. So you can see the full list and sign up on our website. If there are any additional accommodations you need in order to participate in this program, submit an application, please contact us. These include translation services, large text documents, additional technical support. Just let us know what you need and we will do our best to accommodate you. And I'll note here that we have a ton of assistance available to all applicants through technical assistance appointments. So you can make an appointment with us to discuss specific questions, brainstorm ideas for your application, and receive feedback on a draft or budget. You can make an appointment, one-on-one appointment with us at artsmidhudson.youcanbook.me. The technical assistance that we provide, it's very tailored to each applicant and your needs. Another good thing about these is that we're able to listen to what you're trying to achieve with your program or with your capacity building initiative and make some recommendations for it, either, around artists that you might want to work with, organizations you might want to partner with. And so it's a really good way just to pick our brains about networking and people you can reach out to. And we're always happy to connect people. And it's a good way to get some feedback about your proposal and make sure it's aligned with the focus of the program. Okay, the purpose of Dutchess Partners in the Arts. We'll start talking about that by letting you know where the funding comes from. So through a partnership with the Office of the County Executive of Dutchess County and Dutchess Tourism, we are so pleased to offer this program. We've been doing it for many years. And it is focused on implementing arts and cultural offerings and supporting arts and cultural organizations in Dutchess County. And for this, we really are seeking partners that have a strong history of achievement in the arts, good management, stable finances, and self-sustaining programs with the potential to make a measurable impact. The funding for the capacity building initiatives is from the Office of the County Executive, and the funding for programmatic support comes through Dutchess Tourism. So as you'll hear me say throughout this session, Dutchess Partners in the Arts includes two key but distinct categories. You can submit, and you'll hear me say this probably a couple times, you can submit one application to each category. And so I'm going to talk about the goals for Dutchess Partners in the Arts, and we have specific goals for each category. So for programmatic support, the goals are to support the arts and cultural programming in Dutchess County as a means of attracting visitors to our region. I'll note here again, the programmatic support funding comes from Dutchess Tourism. So as I talk about this category, you'll hear several times about the focus on tourism and economic impact. The second goal is to engage Dutchess County residents in high quality arts and cultural programming. So of course, the focus of these projects funded through this category are on attracting visitors to our region, but it's also on serving Dutchess County residents with high quality programming. And then last, to fund arts partners with the ability to report reliable statistics, marketing results, and accurate outcomes. Dutchess Partners in the Arts, specifically programmatic support, really requires specific statistics and reporting around the impact of your programs. So we're really looking within our applicant pool and at the applications to make sure that those that we're funding are indicating that they are going to be able to meet the reporting requirements, provide statistics, marketing results, and accurate outcomes, and meet the goals that they're setting out in their project proposal. The goals for capacity building initiatives are first to support nonprofit arts organizations in Dutchess County in efforts to grow, expand, or improve their work, and to positively impact the arts and cultural scene of Dutchess County by strengthening established arts organizations which benefit residents and visitors. So we're really hoping that through the capacity building initiatives, we're able to strengthen the arts and cultural organizations that already exist here and ensure that they're able to do their work at a higher level. And that, of course, has an impact not just on visitors to our region, but on residents and what the cultural and arts offerings of Dutchess County are in the future. Important dates for 2023. The deadline is Tuesday, May 23rd of 2023 at 11:59 p.m. So very specific, that is when the form will close. The deadline is Tuesday, May 23rd, and it will close right before it becomes the next day, okay? Online, all applications must be submitted online, and grant notification will likely be in June 2023. All funded projects must occur from January 1st, 23 to December 31st, 23. So that means that we can fund retroactively if there is something that has already occurred. I will say that projects that are yet to occur or projects that have the majority of their programming is yet to occur are slightly more competitive because they will fully be able to use and display funding credit for the programming. All right, so now I'm going to go in depth on the capacity building initiative category, who's eligible for it, and what kind of initiatives it funds. So the focus of capacity building initiatives are to help nonprofit arts and cultural organizations work more effectively and better meet their mission. So initiatives may create a new area of work, develop new strategies, or enhance current programming in a significant manner. And so this really relates to the organization's mission. What is the organization's mission? What are you trying to achieve? And what is the appropriate initiative to undertake right now that will build the capacity and allow that organization to better meet their mission? And so the why now of it, you'll hear me say that a couple of times when I talk about capacity building initiatives, is really important because it's talking about, where you are as an organization now and what it would mean for you to grow, what it would take for you to grow in a specific area. You can submit, again, one application for capacity building initiatives and one application for programmatic support if you are a nonprofit arts organization. The funding amount for capacity building initiatives is $2,500 to $9,000. There is no cash match required. You'll see that that top number has gone up from previous years, and we're really happy to do that. It's because we're very grateful to Dutchess County and the Office of the County Executive to have received additional funding for this year. So we were able to raise that up about $1,500. And there is no cash match required. So if your initiative is going to cost $9,000, you can request that amount, and you do not have to have matching funds or have the funds to be made up somewhere else. The entire budget can be $9,000, and you can be requesting that amount from us. Established nonprofit arts organizations or artistic programs that have been in existence for 3 or more years are eligible and have a record of success. So really what that means is organizations who have either been in existence for 3 years or have been doing programming for 3 years. If you're kind of in a gray area where like, we just got our nonprofit 2 years ago, but we had been doing programming as an unincorporated group for 10 years, just check in with us and make sure that you're eligible before you start working on the application. All expressive artistic disciplines are eligible, including visual, performing, written, digital, traditional, and experimental mediums. Okay, who's eligible for capacity building initiatives? All applicants must be a registered 501c3 nonprofit organization, which identifies the arts and/or cultural services as a primary activity in the organization's mission. So that is how we determine if the organization is an arts or cultural organization and therefore eligible for this program. It has to be clearly stated as a primary activity in the organization's mission. If you have any questions about that, you feel like you're in a gray area, that would be something to reach out to us about. Just send an email to grants@artsmidhudson.org, copy and paste your mission statement in there and say, hey, we're concerned that we're not going to meet the threshold for it being our primary activity or whatever it might be, and we can discuss. Nonprofit arts organizations should be incorporated in Dutchess County or have a long-term lease or own a building in Dutchess County. So if you are incorporated in New York City, for example, but you have a building in Dutchess County and are doing significant programming here, then you are eligible. I would very much recommend it for any nonprofits that are incorporated or have additional business elsewhere, that your capacity building must be focused on your activities in Dutchess County. Applicants must supply proof of nonprofit status with applications. Organizations must have at least 3 years of programming history in order to apply for funding. And all nonprofits applying must have a board of directors and a board-approved non-discrimination policy. So just make sure that is a eligibility requirement, that there is a board-approved non-discrimination policy. For some, it is in the bylaws of the organization. It may be in the employee or personnel handbook. It may be just something that the board, signed, discussed at a meeting and was board approved. Whatever it may be, if you have not applied to us previously and we have not collected your non-discrimination policy previously, we will reach out to you after the deadline to collect this document. Who is ineligible for the capacity building initiative category of Dutchess Partners in the Arts? Individuals and unincorporated groups, public school districts and their components. This includes 2- and 4-year public universities and colleges and their supporting foundations, New York State agencies and departments, and county level government agencies and departments. Entities that are incorporated as for-profit, including LLCs, are not eligible. Libraries and social service organizations are not eligible. Units of government or government agencies, not eligible. Nonprofits incorporated outside of Dutchess County who do not own a building or have a long-term lease in Dutchess County, and organizations or groups that have not submitted the requisite reports or prior funded activities to Arts Mid-Hudson. What that last one means is if you got a grant from us or funding from us in the past couple of years and we did not receive any of your final reporting, or we're missing a report from you, you would not be eligible. You would have received many notices about this by now, so it's not something that we can, send you an advance warning about this time. If you're at all concerned that you have not submitted final reports, please reach out to us and let us know, because that might be the kind of thing that we do not realize until you have submitted, if we have already sent many notices and not heard from you. And it does not just apply to Dutchess Partners in the Arts, it is all of our programs. Okay, so what type of capacity building initiatives are eligible? And this is some examples. It is by no means limited to this list. It's kind of purposely broad in what it can fund, because capacity building initiatives can be really creative and far-reaching, and we don't really, we have no interest in limiting organizations. We really want to see what you all can come up with that's going to have meaningful impact on your organization and your ability to meet your mission and serve the public. And so some potential initiatives might include strategic planning or board development fees, and this is often hiring a consultant to lead that process, or a consulting group. Diversity, equity, accessibility, and inclusion training for staff, board, and or volunteers, new or expanded staff positions, capital improvements, technology, website, or equipment upgrades. And just taking a step back to new or expanded staff positions, that could mean hiring a new person or expanding an existing staff person's hours. Audience, website, or marketing plan development, and that really would be focused around year-round activities, rebranding the organization, or general marketing activities for the organization as a whole. Capacity building initiative, the capacity building initiative category is not the appropriate place to ask for program-specific marketing or audience expenses. It really is focused on broader year-round or the organization as a whole if you're going to take that route. And then any other activities that you all can come up with which improve the organization's ability to produce excellent arts and cultural programming for visitors and residents in Dutchess County. Okay. And so I like to mention here that capacity building initiatives and undertaking one provides a really excellent opportunity to consider inclusion and access to your programs that the public has to you. And so Arts Mid-Hudson, you can read our full diversity, equity, access, and inclusion statement on our website. And in it, you'll hear some of this information. But really, it's that we are striving towards broad inclusion and true access to arts and cultural programming for all. Not any one organization can achieve that, or any one program, but it's a constant effort that we're undertaking at Arts Mid-Hudson. And our panels, this comes up on our panels, whether we are, we're always, it's in our guidelines. Obviously, we're talking about inclusion now, but our panelists who come, who are not Arts Mid-Hudson staff or board, and who come from, all areas of the arts and cultural and nonprofit sector in Dutchess County, inclusion is top of mind, and making sure that this funding reaches all corners of our county, and that the programs and the organizations we're funding are making every effort to be as inclusive and accessible as possible, because this is public funds. These are taxpayer funds that are now being allocated towards improving our arts and cultural assets and ensuring that the public and that Dutchess County continues to be a destination for arts and culture, and that our residents are really fulfilled and able to access that. And so we're really interested, and capacity building initiatives offer a really good opportunity to think about how the organization can be more inclusive. And so we encourage thoughtful outreach to groups, to all groups in our region, and efforts to seek input from as many points of view as possible when undertaking capacity building initiatives. And specifically to conduct outreach to historically underserved audiences, specifically any populations of underserved audiences that are in your immediate service area or that you're hoping to expand your programming to reach. And so some groups, this might include groups who may have limited access to arts programming, services or resources due to their location, race, economic status, gender identity, sexual orientation, age, religion, disability, or other factors. And some groups that are historically marginalized and may be underserved by the arts in our region could include Black, Latino, Indigenous, Asian, people of color, LGBTQIA, disabled, elder, youth, rural, and low-income audiences. So as I said at the beginning of this slide, not every program has the resources or the ability to reach every audience, but that doesn't mean that there can't be as many efforts taken as possible to be as inclusive as you can and to maybe focus on an area or a specific population in your service area that you're hoping you can really expand access or inclusion to through a capacity building initiative. Some of this might look like targeted marketing campaigns. If you're planning you're doing a strategic plan, really thinking about feedback gathering and a really substantial surveying process to get input from a wide intersection of points of view. Or thinking about accessibility upgrades or any other facility upgrades that could improve access or inclusion. So now I'm going to talk about some tips around specific types of capacity building initiatives, and these are some things that we see a lot of. So first I'm going to talk about new and its expanded staff positions. So first, and this is kind of like a series of questions for you to consider when you're crafting your ask. So first, make a case for why this hire is important to the organization now. So again, going back to that why now, why is it going to improve your capacity to hire this new staff person or to expand an existing staff person's hours? Why is now the time to do so, and what will it enable you to do? What opportunities will allow you to take advantage of, et cetera. Consider how your constituents will benefit from this hire or how you might be able to expand your audience. So for capacity building initiatives, it's really about strengthening your organization and then considering and making the case for what that ripple effect will be in the community beyond your organization. So for example, you're saying, we want to hire an administrative assistant because some management level really needs additional capacity, needs some support on specific tasks. And you make that case for how it will improve the inner workings of your organization. Take it a step further, talk about how improving the inner workings of your organization will positively impact the community that you serve, or enable you to serve more audience members. Talk about, there will be a specific question for this, but talk about how the job will be posted, just be clear around that. Talk about what will the new staff or expanded hours for an existing staff person, what will they be able to accomplish in that time? What is going to change about their workload or what you're able to produce? How will the position be sustained, or is it a one-time consultancy? So just being clear around that. You'll see when you're going, there is a specific question on the application that asks if you are going to be hiring someone or expanding someone's hours through this capacity building initiative. And it will then, if you say yes, it will ask you a few questions just to confirm some of these finer points. But just note that these are some things that you really want to make sure are clear so that the panel is not wasting any time trying to figure out the details of your new staff hire or expanding the staff hours. And yes, for expanded staff hours, include any new tasks they're going to undertake and include a resume to show relevant experience to taking on those additional tasks. For technology and equipment upgrades, you definitely want to explain the organization or staff, their capacity to use and maintain the new technology or equipment. So who is the key staff person that's going to be, especially if it's complicated technology or, beyond, of course, when you're submitting to these capacity building initiatives to our panel is made up of stakeholders in the arts and cultural industry in our region, people who work in nonprofits, and they, many of our panelists it changes every year. Our panelists, they're not the same panel every year. They may have technological knowledge. They might be somebody who's familiar with the technology you're presenting, but they very well may not be, especially if it's really specific to your medium or, specific around your building. So you want to explain it like it's for anything, like the people you're talking to on the other end have no idea what you're talking about. And you're really just very clearly laying out what the technology or equipment upgrade is. And then beyond that, explain who is the expert on staff, who are the people that are going to be responsible for maintaining and using this. So the panel doesn't have any reason to believe that you will not be able to handle or fully use the equipment that you're going to be purchasing with these funds. Consider accessibility. So as I said before, if you're planning to do technology and equipment upgrades, think about long-term, is this a choice or is this purchase that we're making really the most improving accessibility as much as it could be? Consider if you need a customized solution, which may be more costly, or identify an off-the-shelf alternative and be clear around which approach is the best for your organization's needs. So that could be the difference between saying, we're going to pay for this donor management system. We're going to pay a monthly, a fee to start, and we're going to pay a monthly fee after that. And that's kind of an off-the-shelf version, that you're just going to be paying into an existing service. Alternatively, you might be making a case that, our needs are very specific as an organization. So we're going to be working with a software engineer and he's going to be building us a specific program around our needs, and then be clear around why you've chosen one option or the other. Talk about the benefit to the organization and the audience. So again, what's the ripple effect? How is this improve maybe workflow or your capacity within the organization? And then what's that effect going to be beyond the organization? And then just being honest and clear around the lifespan of the new equipment. Just because this often comes up, people are used to buying themselves new laptops every, few years, or knowing how much, especially if you get someone who is an expert in your field or in that equipment on the panel, they're going to be aware of how long the lifespan is for that new equipment you're purchasing. So you should as well, and just kind of present that and, talk about that it is being clear that, you've really considered that and you've made a choice that is a good choice for the time. For marketing and outreach initiatives, first of all, be thoughtful, research-based, and realistic when you're considering what marketing or outreach initiative you're going to undertake, meaning that maybe you've done some information gathering among your staff or through your statistics, that have to do with your website or your email list or your social media, and you've identified what are your needs as far as marketing and outreach. Use this funding as an opportunity to expand your current audience. So again, it should not be focused around specific programs, but around maybe organization-wide efforts to expand your audience. If you're trying to reach a specific group or a specific underserved audience in our region, then I would really recommend hiring individuals who have experience working with that group because they are a part of it themselves. And have that personal knowledge. I think that we've seen a lot of success with that in previous applications and awardees. Seek input from individuals from historically underrepresented groups. So going back again, that capacity buildings are a great time, capacity building initiatives are a great time to consider feedback and making sure that, not only what you're doing is undertaking is going to improve your workflow and what you're able to do as an organization, but that you have made that choice with some input from audiences in your region that typically have limited access to arts and cultural programming, and that you're maybe taking some effort to improve their access or improve their awareness of your programming. And I think I've kind of covered that next one. Well, I'll say relevancy of programming to the audiences you're trying to reach. So, if you're, this might really go under a strategic plan. And if in your strategic plan, maybe there's a huge focus on marketing and outreach. We've gotten a few applications like that in the past. So that would be something to consider, that if you're really talking about expanding into a specific audience, gathering feedback from that audience to make sure that the programming that you're going to be promoting to them and hoping that they'll attend is relevant to them, is of interest, and is for them. Clearly explain your reasoning for various promotion tools. Kind of goes, very clear, just, be, there are a lot of different types of promotion tools, social media, your email, your website, print and radio. So be clear around why you're choosing the avenues that you're choosing. For capacity building initiatives, there are three main evaluative criteria. You'll see that they're actually the same for programmatic support. They just mean different things depending on the category. So the first is artistic merit, and this is really based on the applicant's organization's track record and quality of the programming to be enhanced by the initiative. The best way for the panel to determine this is through the work samples that you provide. So I, really recommend thinking of gathering some good promotional information about your organization, maybe your annual report, maybe some video documentation or photo documentation of your programming. That's the way that they're going to be able to assess the track record of the organization. Impact. So what is the potential impact of the proposed initiative on residents or visitors of Dutchess County, and the impact on the applicant organization's ability to provide excellent arts and cultural programming? So this really has to do with, what's the impact on the organization, and then what is that ripple effect going to be beyond the organization, and how is it going to impact the community around them? And feasibility, evidence of planning in place to execute the proposed initiative as described in the application, taking into consideration the budget, timeline, and implementation plans. So does the budget make sense? Does the timeline make sense? Does what you're proposing sound feasible to the panel and likely to occur in the way that you're describing? And then the panel is going to be considering, throughout, is the organization demonstrating the ability to meet the evaluation and reporting requirements? Some last tips for what make competitive capacity building initiatives. So initiatives that are highly feasible, those are the ones that I tend to see do the best if they are very straightforward, and the panel can just read it, understand what you're trying to do, and say, yes, this sounds like it would really help their organization, and yes, and move on. So, often with capacity building initiatives, sometimes the shortest panel conversations are the ones that are some of the stronger applications, because you have laid out such a coherent plan that there isn't really much else to say other than, yes, we would like to fund it. Sustainable. So something that is for capacity building initiatives, they are, kind of a one-off that you're going to do this initiative this year, and then hopefully it's going to expand your capacity and grow what you're able to do. So it's not the type of program where you come back to do the capacity building initiative again the next year. Next year, you should be applying for a different capacity building initiative altogether, or something that really builds off of what you did. But it's about implementing something that will be self-sustainable and will improve your organization's capacity moving forward. Capacity building initiatives that have clearly defined goals, meaning like you have articulated in the application that this is what you're trying to achieve through the initiative, and it makes sense based on all of your implementation plans that's actually what the impact is going to be. Measurable success, so that you've indicated in the application how you plan, around, if you have goals, then you are providing, a goal that you're trying to meet and something measurable to get to, to measure if you met your goal or not. And so these are some, if you are clear around that, those really strengthen capacity building initiatives. Efforts which increase access to arts and cultural programming are very competitive capacity building initiatives. Applications from organizations who have a clearly defined history and commitment to thoughtfully serving historically underserved communities in Dutchess County. And capacity building initiatives which will contribute positively to arts and cultural offerings of Dutchess County. Okay. Next, we're going to talk about programmatic support. And so again, this is a completely separate category. You can submit one application to capacity building initiatives and one application to programmatic support. So the objective of the programmatic support category is to provide support for arts and cultural programming throughout Dutchess County that has a measurable impact on tourism, engages local residents, and contributes to the vibrant arts ecosystem in the county. Applications will be considered from partners that have a track record of success and demonstrate the ability to manage logistics and deadlines effectively. A key component to successful partnership in this funding program is the ability to report reliable statistics, marketing results, and accurate outcomes. Excuse me. So this category, again, is very focused on, might even be my next slide. There's a clear focus on tourism and economic impact. This funding is coming from Dutchess Tourism, who's getting it also through the IDA, and they're very interested on what the economic impact of the programs that are funded through this program will be, and that those programs and applicants are able to report back reliable, accurate statistics around audience served, where they came from, and what the economic impact of the program was. So these are things like if you were to get a grant for programmatic support, every quarter we'll be checking in with you and asking what were the programs that occurred this quarter, how many people were served, and what is the breakdown of where they came from by zip code. So this is, it's very important that the applicants are able to report back that information, that you have a plan in place to track that. We'll talk about some of that a little later on about how you might track that, and that the programs are focused and clearly stating that the program is focused as well on tourism, drawing visitors in from outside the region, and having an economic impact. So these are some this program, this funding opportunity is not necessarily for every single arts and cultural project that's taking place in Dutchess County. This is a fund that's from Dutchess Tourism that is very focused on events that are really going to draw people in from outside the county. And then, of course, there is that added benefit that these events are going to serve Dutchess County residents as well. And I'll just state here as well that we're so pleased that we have a program that's really focused on this. And if you have a program that you don't think is a right fit for this because tourism is not a stated focus, we have other funding programs for Dutchess County that would be a better fit for your project. So just reach out to us and we can talk about that. Okay, programs must be open to the public and take place in Dutchess County, and must include stated goals and expected outcomes related to the program's economic impact. Other key details. So the funding amount is $500 to $5,000. There is no cash match required. So if your entire project budget is going to be $5,000, you can request $5,000, and that's perfectly fine. Excuse me. Established nonprofit arts organizations or artistic programs that have been in existence for 3 or more years and have a record of success are eligible and encouraged to apply for funding. So again, if you're in a situation where maybe you've been a nonprofit for 6 months, but you have been doing programming for 15 years, just reach out to us and make sure that you're eligible before starting your application. Individuals and unincorporated groups may apply with an eligible fiscal sponsor for programmatic support only. Fiscal sponsorship is not available for capacity building initiatives. It is only available for programmatic support. And when we say eligible fiscal sponsor, we mean a nonprofit 501c3 organization that meets all of the eligibility requirements as if they were applying directly. So if it's an organization that could just apply directly for their own project, then they are eligible to serve as a fiscal sponsor. All artistic disciplines are eligible, including visual, performing, written, digital, traditional, and experimental mediums. Okay, again, who is eligible? All applicants must be registered 501c3 nonprofit organizations, which identify the arts and or cultural services as a primary activity in the organization's mission. Nonprofit organizations must be incorporated in Dutchess County or have a long-term lease or own a building in Dutchess County, or offer and implement significant programming in Dutchess County. All of these are eligible to apply. If you are concerned that you do not meet, this is a little bit more expansive than the capacity building initiative with that last point, that if you are an organization which implements significant programming in Dutchess County, but don't have a long-term lease or own a building and are non-incorporated in Dutchess County, you are still eligible to apply. If you fall in that category, I recommend touching base with us just so that we make sure that we're all in agreement that you implement significant programming in Dutchess County. And ultimately, that is something that the panel would have a say in if they felt, in determining whether or not they felt you had a significant enough programming in Dutchess County. Unincorporated groups or individuals who are fiscally sponsored by an eligible nonprofit organization can apply. All nonprofits applying must have a board of directors and a board-approved non-discrimination policy. Again, that would be in your personnel or employee handbook, bylaws, or just board-approved non-discrimination policy. If you have applied to us previously and we have it on file, we have it on file and we won't ask for it again. But if not, we'll reach out to you after the deadline if you have applied and ask for that document, which, by the way, should be dated before the deadline for the grant, for the funding. Organizations must have at least 3 years of programming history in order to apply, and applicants must supply proof of nonprofit status with your application. If you are an individual or an unincorporated group and you want to apply with a fiscal sponsor, here's some information. So the nonprofit fiscal sponsor is the legal applicant in this circumstance and must meet all eligibility criteria for nonprofits applying. So when we say that they are the legal applicant, that means that, first of all, anyone can write the application. It doesn't matter if it's the artist or a representative from the unincorporated group, or if it's a representative from the fiscal sponsor organization. That's all for you to determine together what suits your needs best. But the fiscal sponsor is the legal applicant. They are who, when it asks at the top, who is the legal applicant, enter in the fiscal sponsor's name, and when you'll have to provide information for that organization. If you are awarded funds, we will sign the contract with the nonprofit fiscal sponsor. The check will be sent to the fiscal sponsor, and then per your agreement, they will send the funds on to the artist or unincorporated group. So very clear. That is the only way for individuals, unincorporated groups to access these funds. We cannot, and you are, as an individual or an unincorporated group, you are not the legal applicant. Your fiscal sponsor is. So in this circumstance, the fiscal sponsor is basically agreeing to extend their nonprofit status to the individual artists or unincorporated groups so that you can apply and access these funds. The project must take place in Dutchess County, and the sponsored individual or group must also be based in Dutchess County. Nonprofit organizations may submit directly and serve as a fiscal sponsor for one additional project. So again, if you are a nonprofit and you're applying directly, you can also fiscally sponsor one additional project. You will include a letter of agreement signed by the fiscal sponsor and the unincorporated group representative or the individual artist. And this will lay out what the fiscal sponsor, how the fiscal sponsor is supporting the project and the applicant, and how the funds will be passed from the fiscal sponsor to the sponsored group. Who is ineligible? So of course, first, individuals and unincorporated groups who are not fiscally sponsored by a nonprofit. Public school districts, their components, meaning PTA or et cetera, 2- and 4-year public universities and colleges and their supporting foundations, New York State agencies and departments, including SUNY schools, county level government agencies and departments are all ineligible. Entities incorporated as for-profit, including LLCs, are not eligible to apply or to be fiscally sponsored by a nonprofit. The only groups that are eligible to be fiscally sponsored are individuals or unincorporated groups that are located in Dutchess County. Libraries and social service organizations, units of governments, and government agencies are all not eligible. And organizations or groups that have not submitted the required reports on funded activities to Arts Mid-Hudson. So if you got a grant from us previously and you never submitted your report, and you, at this point, you probably would have received many requests from us. So if we still don't have it, please check in with us and make sure that you get that to us as soon as possible. And it's not just for Dutchess Partners in the Arts, it is for all of our funded programs. What kind of programs are eligible for programmatic support? This is, again, very broad. There are arts and cultural activities, including arts exhibitions, performances such as concerts or live theater, presentations such as film screenings or readings, arts and cultural festivals, unique experiences and interactive activities. We often get questions about workshops for this category. Workshops would, again, it has to be focused on tourism and drawing people in from outside of the area. So if you feel it's a workshop series that is doing that, you can certainly make a case for it. But just know that any of these types of programs would be eligible as long as there is a stated focus on tourism and economic impact. So again, I'd like to note that just like with capacity building initiatives, programmatic support, seeking out support for one of your programs from Dutchess Partners of the Arts is a great opportunity to think about how can you use this funding to improve your access or accessibility or inclusion of the program and draw new audience in and expand your offerings to the public. All programs funded through Dutchess Partners in the Arts must be open to the general public. As I said before, Arts Mid-Hudson strives toward broad inclusion and true access to arts and cultural programming for all. We strongly encourage thoughtful outreach and efforts to seek input from all groups in our region, specifically outreach and inclusion efforts to underserved audiences. So again, if you're going to be implementing a program this year and say you have a stated focus that you would like to expand your audience to include more Spanish speaking individuals, then I would recommend that, what goes along with that is getting feedback from the Spanish speaking population in your service area, asking how can we make this programming more accessible to you? How can we better reach you and your family and your friends and community members? And this isn't just, talking to one person and expecting them to speak for an entire population. It's really building inroads with that community, showing up at that community's events and seeking input and from a variety of people around how is the programming you're offering relevant to that audience and how can you better reach them and serve them. So again, these are groups that may have limited access to arts programs, services, or resources due to location, race, economic status, gender identity, sexual orientation, age, religion, disability, or other factors. And some groups underserved by the arts in our region may include Black, Latino, Indigenous, Asian, people of color, LGBTQIA+, disabled, elder, youth, rural, and/or low-income audiences. Priority will be given to activities that take place in locations that are fully compliant with the American Disabilities Act. And priority may also be given to projects that are taking additional methods to make arts accessible to audiences or planning any temporary measures necessary to make the site accessible. And additional considerations for accessibility might include services or resources for people who are deaf or hard of hearing, who are vision impaired, who have physical disabilities, and you need to improve, that maybe you're going to install a temporary ramp. And then also considering translation services and any other accessibility needs that you can come up with, sensory programming that is sensitive to different sensory needs. So please check the guidelines for lists for both categories around what are specific expenses that are not eligible for funding. And for programmatic support, we have a few expenses that are actually priority for funding. So priority may be given to programmatic support requests for the following expenses: artist fees, marketing expenses, consumable art supplies and materials, and efforts to increase accessibility to arts programming. So these are the kind of things that we are most interested in funding as line items on your budget. Very much artist fees. Often a panelist will say, oh, look, the entire budget is for artist fees. And that really is improving the scoring for that application, for them. Marketing expenses as well, because this is tourism and economic impact focus. So the more people that you're able to reach in a meaningful way and get them out to your program, that's, again, really meeting the goals of this of this funding opportunity. Evaluative criteria for programmatic support. So artistic merit, taking into consideration the program's participating artists and the applicant organization's track record. So again, this is really determined around your stated goals and plans in the narrative, but even more so the work samples that you provide on the application, work samples for the artists involved, information about the organization and what you've done previously. This is really how the panel is going to be able to score for this evaluative criteria. Impact, so the potential impact of the proposed programming on tourism within Dutchess County and impact on access to arts and cultural programming for Dutchess County residents. Again, very much your application must include somewhere a stated focus on tourism and how this program is achieving that. And you really want to make that case and make that clear to the panel so that they're able to score highly, hopefully, for impact. Feasibility, evidence of planning in place to execute proposed activities as described in the application, taking into consideration the budget, timeline, and implementation plans. And so this really has to do with, does the budget make sense? Does the timeline make sense? Does the plan that you're presenting sound feasible to the panel? And can they envision that your project is going to take place in the way that you're describing it? Some tips about what will make a competitive programmatic support request. So first, again, positive impact on tourism and impact on Dutchess County residents. So just because you hear me talking so much about tourism and economic impact doesn't mean that you don't want to also make the case for the positive impact it's going to have on Dutchess County residents. That is a goal of the program and it is a focus. But you really, really want to make the case for tourism because of the focus of this program, where the funding is coming from and what the program is trying to achieve. And so really talk about both. It's important to talk about both. Your track record and commitment of organization to reach underserved audiences through thoughtful outreach and relevant programming. So applicants who have that track record already or have a really clear plan and commitment are going to be more competitive in the applicant pool. Applications that have a strong marketing and promotion plan, again, tourism, that it's really reaching audiences and letting them know about this programming so that they can attend. And the ability to report and monitor on program goals, outcome, and attendance, meeting all of the reporting requirements that I alluded to before. Okay, so now I'm going to go over, or close to the end here, some information about submitting an application. So again, all proposals must be submitted online by Tuesday, May 23rd, 2023 at 11:59 p.m. On our web, and you can find the application at artsmidhudson.submittable.com, and there is also a link on our website. If you require assistance in completing the application, the online submission form, please contact us in advance of the deadline. For both categories, you're going to be asked to provide some supplemental documents. This includes a staff list of everyone at your organization, board list, organization's annual budget for your most recent fiscal year, nonprofit and financial documents, and this is based on the organization's annual gross revenue. So just take a look at the guidelines and the application, and you'll see what documents are needed based on your annual revenue. These may include CHAR 500, a 990, or other 990 type document like a 990 EZ. And if you are a larger organization, it will ask for an independent public accountant's opinion. Supplemental materials, work samples are highly, highly, highly recommended. This is a very competitive program, and to be honest, your application will likely not be competitive if you do not include sufficient work samples, because it is one of the key areas of funding, of evaluation, artistic merit. So please start thinking about your work samples, evidence of the organization and the artist involved's artistic merit, so that you can include that on your application. All applications, again, are available at artsmidhudson.org/Dutchess-partners-in-the-arts. And this is if you're on our email list, you'll be getting several reminders about this program with direct links. You can also I'll show you at the end of this how to get to everything from our homepage. And if you use Submittable, you can also find the links to the application and materials on our Submittable homepage. Some tips for your application, and really this applies to any kind of funding request or grant request to us. And, these are my tips when you're applying to other funders as well. Answer the questions directly and succinctly. This is a very competitive program where we receive many applications. So the panelists are going to be reading a lot of information. You want to be as direct and succinct as possible so that they really get the core of what you're doing. They don't have to sift through a lot of extraneous details or additional writing to get to the core of what you're doing. So I really recommend for your application, you'll see that there's either a description of the initiative, if it's the Capacity Building Initiative, or description of the program for the programmatic support. And that's kind of where you're going to lay out the scope of your entire project or initiative. And that's, that place, it's really important to just get to the who, what, when, where, why right away, and make sure it's very clear what the scope of the project is in a nutshell, so that then they can digest all the other additional information that you'll provide on the application. Provide specifics to understand the scope of the project and depth of planning. So this has to go, this goes towards impact and feasibility, that they understand the scope of what you're trying to achieve, its potential for impact, and the depth of planning to make that plan happen. So you want to really be, make sure you're showing off if you've done a lot of planning already, or if you're really well set up to start implementing what you're planning to do. Talk about that and make it clear that this is a project or initiative that's really ready to go. Keep the panel focused on your ideas by providing complete information. So it's really important that, this is why I often recommend asking us to read a draft of your proposal or a trusted friend or colleague, because they can check to make sure that the who, what, when, where, why, all the core information, all the key details of the project or the initiative are all there. Because first of all, you want to put your best foot forward and ensure that the panel, all the panel is going to have is what you've provided to them. They may be familiar with your organization or the artist involved's work previously. Some of them may be, but for the most part, there's a good chance that they won't be familiar with you or they haven't heard of you before, right? So you want to write as if, well, this is really the next point, write for someone who knows nothing about you or the project, so that you can make sure that you're really engaging every panelist who's reading your proposal. And then keeping them focused on your ideas by providing complete information. It's a group of people that are, going to be reading your proposal, and they're prone to getting distracted if they realize, oh, it doesn't clearly state where this project is going to take place, or it doesn't clearly state how much it's going to cost for audience members to attend. So then, or for example, there's a discrepancy. In one place, it says that the ticket price is $10, and another place it says the ticket price is $20. Those type of distractions are the perfect opportunity for panelists to get really distracted and start debating which is the correct number, or what do they think is the correct information. And that's time that they're not talking about your proposal and the good parts, and they're more focused on trying to figure out a discrepancy. So complete information, clear, succinct information that's really written in layman's terms so that everybody who is reading can understand fully. Show evidence of the evaluative criteria, and I'll go on to say reference the goals of the funding program. I recommend to anyone starting a grant application or a funding request, you want to read the guidelines for the program really thoroughly. I like to go through when I'm writing a grant and highlight areas that are sticking out to me, write notes on, specific phrases from the guidelines that I think align with the project I'm trying to do, and align myself with the evaluative criteria, the goals for the program, the language that's being used, because this is what the panel is preparing to read your applications with. They're going to read the guidelines and all of the materials as well. And when they see you speaking that language back to them, then they can much more easily make the connection that your project is aligned or your initiative is aligned with the goals of Dutchess Partners in the Arts and therefore worthy of funding. So it's perfectly fine to speak the language back to us, and it can be quite helpful for you in making sure that your writing is focused and clear and aligned with the program. Some tips for the budget. You'll see that what we're asking for, if you apply to previous years, we used to ask for a full income and expense budget for the initiative or project. Now we just ask for a breakdown of how you will spend our funds. You'll see that that table is embedded on the application, and there are some follow-up questions so that we can make sure we're getting all the information we need. Honestly, I recommend doing the budget first. I think that it provides a very good roadmap for the rest of your application, because then once you know, okay, these are the expenses that I'm asking the grant, the funding to pay for, then you can focus on those areas in your writing in the narrative. At least work on them at the same time. Check for consistency from the budget to the narrative, especially if any figures or numbers change as you're working. Use the explanation column. You'll see on the budget breakdown that this is where you'll explain what a number on a line item means. So for example, if it's artist fees, $5,000, and there was nothing written in the explanation column, the panel would be lacking some information around, okay, how much is each artist getting paid? How many artists are getting paid? Are they all getting paid the same? Are they getting paid different amounts? Right? So you could use that explanation column to say, for example, 2 artists at $2,500 each, $5,000, right? So that just very clearly lays out how you got to that number. Check the guidelines for priorities for funding and ineligible expenses. And please ask us to review a draft of your budget. It's a very quick thing for us to check, and we can make sure that you're on track to put in a budget that is eligible. So now I'll talk about peer panel review. This is how proposals will be reviewed for Dutchess Partners in the Arts. So all submitted proposals are reviewed using a peer panel evaluation process. Panelists include artists, arts workers, and community members who evaluate the proposals and recommend a level of funding. There are new and returning panelists every year. And so we do this so that we have some people who are a little more experienced with the process, can help move the day along, and have some information about previous applications and awardees, and new people, so that we get new perspectives on the panel every year. It's a very diverse group. We don't move forward with panels unless we have a diverse intersection of the community that we serve represented. Arts Mid-Hudson staff or board members do not have a vote in the process. Staff is there to, I'm there to facilitate the conversation, keep it moving, but I do not have a vote during the process. Panelists can have access to information on previously funded projects. So if they ask for final reports or information from applicants who had received funding previously, we'll supply it to them. And just know, prior grant funding does not guarantee continued support. If you or there's someone you know who you think would make a great panelist, we have a panelist nomination form that's linked on our website, and it's also just tinyurl.com/amh-panel-nomination. Responsibilities of awardees. So for Dutchess Partners in the Arts, I'm just going to run through what the reporting requirements are if you were to receive funding. You'll also see this laid out in the guidelines. So for capacity building initiatives only, we will ask for an interim report. That will be a short narrative form outlining your progress. It's due midway through the funding period. It's very short. It's just about a paragraph letting us know how it is going with your initiative. For programmatic support, we will be requesting quarterly reports with a short description outlining progress, and we will be asking you to provide numbers on attendance by zip code and revenue per event. This is something that we really need to collect. It is not acceptable for awardees to not be able to provide this information to us on time, or to provide us incomplete information. So please know, if you are planning to apply for programmatic support, this is what's going to be expected from you on a quarterly basis, and making sure that you are setting yourself up to be able to provide this information. All awardees are going to be asked to provide a final report, either for capacity building or programmatic support. It's a longer narrative form with details on the success, statistics, and areas of improvement for your initiative or project. It is due at the conclusion of the funding period. Really, the first few days of January 24 is when it's due. I think it's the 3rd of January 24, and it'll include a final budget explaining how funds were spent. It will also ask you for programmatic support to summarize all of the information you provided in the quarterly reports and ensuring that it's all the same numbers. Some example of measuring if you've met your goals. So tracking zip codes. If you, for example, are selling tickets, you might be doing this through your ticketing service or your online shop, or however you are taking in payment methods. You might be having somebody sign up, do zip code when people come in, asking them what their zip code is, or if they RSVP in advance, asking what their zip code is. Surveying impact on local economy. So this would mean, first of all, tracking revenue for your event, but then also collecting anecdotal information from area businesses if they were impacted by your event taking place. And so that could mean, figuring out, and there may be ways as well to set up tracking methods. Maybe you're going to partner with a local restaurant and do kind of like a dinner and a show. We funded a few things like this where, they can take their program over and get a discount, and then the restaurant can track how many people did that. So that kind of like hard numbers and statistics is really what we're looking for programmatic support. Talking about how the organization was impacted, specific statistics around increase in membership, increase in your mailing list, increase in social media activity. And then for capacity building initiatives, tracking can be qualitative or quantitative. We're looking for those statistics, but we're also looking for anecdotal information. We recommend developing a plan for this and including it in your application. Final tips, and then we'll be all wrapped up. So first steps, if you are an individual or unincorporated group that wants to go for programmatic support, start looking for a fiscal sponsor as soon as possible. Review the online application form and guidelines. Make sure that you're aware of everything that's going to be asked of you. And on that note, organize digital copies of all required attachments so that you're not at the 11th hour rushing to try to gather your required attachments. This is the type of thing I would recommend getting together early on and just uploading them to your application so you don't have to worry about it anymore, and you can just focus on fine-tuning your narrative. At any time, make an appointment with Arts Mid-Hudson. It's my favorite part of my job, talking to applicants about their ideas and what you're trying to achieve. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us. You'll see that there is that booking form. And it's linked on our website, but if you ever, don't see a time that works for you there, or, don't see anything available, just send us an email and we'll make an alternate time, make sure to get you in. This is a list of the Q&A session dates. They will be all held on Zoom to encourage as many people as possible to attend. These are also listed on our website and on the RSVP form. And that's it. So again, thank you so much for your interest in this program. My name is Lilia Perez. I'm the Grants and Programs Manager. You can reach me and Amani Jones, our Administrative Assistant, at grants@artsmidhudson.org or call 845-454-3222, extension 11. And before I stop, well, I'll stop sharing for just a second, but I want to just show our website to show you where you can find everything. So on our homepage, Arts Mid-Hudson, you can go to grants and artist opportunities, grants and funding. This will bring you to a listing of all of our funding programs, and you're looking for Dutchess Partners in the Arts. Learn more, it's what you'll click. And then you'll see all the information listed here, link to download the guidelines and application for each category, link to sign up for the Q&A session, link to make a one-on-one appointment with us, schedule of information. There are links to the reporting forms from previous years. So if you want to take a look at those, you can. And we also have lists of everybody who's been funded previously from this program. So you can take a look to see if that gives you any inspiration or, answers any questions around what is eligible or likely to be funded for this program. So again, thank you so much for your interest in Dutchess Partners in the Arts, and I hope to chat with you soon if you have additional questions.